And we are, as a people, inherently and historically
Wake up!
opposed to secret societies, the secret oaths, and the secret proceedings.
The show that asks questions about why we don't ask questions.
What the hell is going on?
This is Conspiracy Queries with Alan Park.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Conspiracy Queries with Alan Park, and he's not here right now, so I'm Sean Connery, and I'll be doing it for him. That's a lie. Hey, it's Conspiracy Queries with Alan Park, and you're listening to Sean Connery, and he's not here. I got confused. Should we start again? No. Are you still driving? Yes. Well, let's get moving then. Conspiracy Queries with Alan Park today. What a great guest we have, and a fun and entertaining and educational listen for you today. My goodness, FreemanTV.com is the website where you will find my guest, Freeman Fly, an incredibly well-searched Mason, very knowledgeable on the Jesuits. Fantastic. You're going to love it. Before we get to that, though, it's getting closer to the Olympics. Hey, there's a CIA-connected terror group issuing a threat ahead of the Russian Olympic Games. This comes to us from our friend McNeely in England, from RINF News, R-I-N-F News. Listen to this. Vitaly Dagestan, a Salafist terror group loyal to Shamil Basayev, has taken credit for the Volgograd bombing in late December that claimed the lives of 34 people. A video posted on the group's website shows men identified as suicide bombers and says it is responsible for the Russian attack. And they were wearing the appropriate attire of explosive belts and posing with assault rifles. The men warn they will attack the Winter Olympics, scheduled on Friday the 6th of February in Sochi, a Russian city by the Black Sea. And at the same time that's going on, of course, Putin says he has something like 40,000 cops and they're ready. So let's dial up the games. But right now, let's go to an ad and we'll be right back. That was a lot of work, by the way. You are lucky, as the listener, you didn't get to suffer through the nonsense of what is going on, just merely trying to connect with somebody. In this world of connectivity that we now have, I am so excited about this guy coming on the show, Freeman Fly. You can check him out at FreemanTV.com. And if that's wrong, he will kill me and provide the correct address. All kinds of fantastic information there, really interesting. You will be warned by me that if you get on there, the website one weekend, you might not do anything else all weekend, which is a good thing. Great information on there. Let's not waste any more time. Let's bring him on. Freeman Fly, welcome to Conspiracy Queries. I hope you're doing well today.
Hi, Alan. Yeah, it's been a crazy day. It looks like it's just going to carry on.
What kind of things have been happening with you?
Oh, well, we're packing up and moving. We didn't intend it. It was family. My mom needs us, and so we're packing up the house and moving out. We're dealing with all of that. But today has just been like crazy. My website was down when I got up this morning. No one could fix it. Finally, through a bunch of frantic, like you were just going through, I got the website back up and running. And,
right.
It's been just that kind of day.
Well, thank you for agreeing to come on. And with all that stuff going on in your private life, that's always stressful and busy as it is without getting on the phone for an hour.
Yeah, well, I like to be here, and I feel this is really important, or I wouldn't do it. Honestly, I didn't choose to be in front of people like this. The universe threw me out here, and, I'm doing my best.
What were you doing before the universe threw you out there?
I was a glassblower. I was living in my van on Christmas Light Street in Austin, Texas, selling glass at festivals. And ended up meeting a homeless man who said he just had to do my numerology. He starts doing my numerology and starts telling me I've got to meet these other people. Sets me up to come to a mall where I end up speaking with George Green, who was the Bilderberger financial advisor to Jimmy Carter, who was then publishing the books of the Palladians that were meeting with Billy Meyer in Switzerland, right?
The Pleiadians, yeah, with the Billy Meyer contact story, often not believed by most people, yeah.
So I'm at this talk, and I started talking. And next thing I know, some large man, he was like 8 foot tall, I swear, comes over to me and says, "You need a TV show." And next thing I knew, I was on Austin Access. I had no ideas, no plans, didn't know this even existed. And then I became one of the very first Google television shows that you could watch, weekly online.
Well, that's quite a journey. When did that start? When did that news and that shift take place in your life?
2004 to 5, right at the end of 4 into 5.
Okay. Wow. So long time.
I was on one of the first YouTubes. I was one of the first YouTubers. I'm now in a documentary about the beginning of YouTube called Me at the Zoo, playing on HBO, which is really about a transvestite. And I end up with a part in there about Britney and mind control.
Wow. Well, that's cool. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube about that. About those kinds of subjects.
Yeah, I'm tripping out right now because I just released Aliens from Hell.
Yes,
and
I do want to talk about that.
Deep research into this occult aspect of aliens coupled with secret societies and popular culture. And all of a sudden today, Katy Perry, or I don't know when the story broke, but Katy Perry wanting to talk to Barack Obama about aliens.
That's a story from today?
Yeah. This just broke. And it's a story that I have been talking about for a number of years now. I've got a video explaining Katy Perry's E.T. video and what this is saying. And then through Aliens from Hell, I explained to you how this all relates to what is known within the secret societies as the Mark of the Beast, and how this will equate with the channeling of interdimensional beings through magical ritual, and then through high technologies as CERN, HAARP, and IceCat.
I'm going to stop you right there.
I lay out all of this for you.
Freeman, I'm going to stop you right there. This is an audio show. We don't have the benefit of the visuals, and I'm going to press you to tell me exactly what is an interdimensional being anyway.
Okay, so
according to
we've actually had to change our language to adjust to this, because there was a time when extraterrestrial meant alien or a foreign body, but now we're having to change that to extraterrestrial includes interdimensional, and alien has to do with really a being. So we've had to include this into our understanding of exopolitics, as it's now known, and the extraterrestrial world is building up and up in our attention, and it's really going to come to the forefront soon.
Okay. But as far as the difference between an alien and an ET and an interdimensional being, I was really hoping that you could try to describe. I know it's very difficult, and I'm coming from a place I don't know. That's why I'm asking. But I've heard this so many times from a lot of heavy, intelligent researchers that I respect, and I still haven't wrapped my head around the concept of an interdimensional being.
Yeah, well, my introduction to all of this came through the occult, through studying occult knowledge and magic practices throughout the ages. Crowley was most famous for channeling an entity he knew as called Lom.
Sorry, who was that?
Aleister Crowley.
Oh, Crowley, right, okay. Mm-hmm.
He was the beast, and really he is at the heart of the 20th and 21st century. He is the icon of every popular star that you see right now, and going all the way back through Led Zeppelin, David Bowie, and into the Beatles, Aleister Crowley has been there, and his beast and his Scarlet Woman and his beliefs of do what thou wilt. And what they would do is practice what was really a trauma-based mind control version of magic. We're talking about eating fecal matter. We're talking about ingesting blood and even ritual sacrifices. And in this ritual magic, you are able to open different portals into the other side and get communication from other beings. Now, Crowley had contact with a being that was known as Lom, and he depicted Lom and realized that this was 1940. Somewhere just in 39, 40, he's making contact with this being. And the depiction that Crowley drew of Lom is identical to what we see now as a gray. And there was no such real knowledge, or I don't think any knowledge at that time.
And that was in 1940?
Yes.
And you're looking at a gray, and then, of course, Roswell wasn't until 47, and the gray association
that was the thing. Crowley, L. Ron Hubbard, and Jack Parsons. Jack Parsons of JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratories,
right.
For person that's in charge of getting rockets to the moon, and L. Ron Hubbard of Scientology, and Crowley were all channeling entities and also having magical battles at that time. And as they were opening portals in what they called the Babylon working, that was when we started getting these major flaps, and then the Roswell incident happened, and Crowley died about 3 months later.
Okay.
So all of this tied in, it seemed as if that they had opened a rift into another dimension. Mm-hmm. Now, this is on the magical side.
Okay.
But, when you come to the technological side, now we have CERN, and their lead scientist coming forth, and you can read this on freemantv.com, their lead scientist coming forth when they turned on CERN and it went to world record levels, they punched a hole into the other dimension. And their lead scientist came forward and says, well, hopefully we can send something through, or maybe something will come back. So now we're talking about a technology capable of punching a hole into the other dimension. Now, up on the International Space Station, they've placed this device. This device, it's called the Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer. Mm-hmm. Its corporate logo is a reptilian claw. And this device was placed up there by CERN when they had Benjamin Funes and the other Jesuit astronomer, Consul Magno. Okay, so there are two Jesuit astronomers that came forward and said aliens are our space brothers and didn't suffer original sin. And you might think these two Jesuit astronomers are some flight of fancy characters that just decided to get news press, but no, they are the head of the Vatican astronomy. And these two gentlemen then were attached to CERN, and CERN, whose corporate logo is 666, was launching a device, the Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer, to the International Space Station to be able to see into the anti-universe.
Is this the God particle? This is the thing that's what you're talking about when you say CERN, C-E-R-N. That it's
yes, CERN was hunting the God particle, and that was all part of this. But the real technologies that were occurring. Now, realize when CERN was turned up to maximum voltage, it actually was the day that the Norway spiral occurred, and a massive blue spiral looked like a portal was opening in the dawn sky over Norway. And this was the day that Barack Obama showed up there to receive his Nobel Peace Prize.
In Norway.
This giant, yes, the Norway spiral, a giant vortex seemingly opened in the sky.
We're going to put some pictures up. We're going to put some pictures up on the website of that because it was amazing. And as I recall, not enough coverage in the mainstream at the time about the blue sapphire spiral in Norway. Freeman Fly is with us. We'll be back in a couple of seconds. We have to do some business. And we're back with Freeman Fly. We were just talking about the Norway spiral. That happened, what was it, 2009?
It was the day Obama got his Peace Prize. I guess you can look it up that way, but yeah, I think it was around. Yeah,
sometime early into his presidency before he had started and participated and promulgated all these wars that were left behind. So he's doing a great job. And so are the people at the Peace Prize Board, I think. Right.
Yeah.
So
he was not nominated for incredible effort.
All right, so now let's get into this aspect of things. You're talking about JPL and some of the technological things that they use, such as the use of CERN, etc. There is that aspect of it, and you, better than almost anyone else I have come across researching this kind of thing, on your website, yes, folks, it's a plug, freemantv.com, you do an unbelievably great job on a presentation you did last year of something I've never been able to even articulate before, and that is the fact that, yes, there is a lot of weird, evil, dark magic going on as far as ruling the populace is concerned, but there is also trickery of magic and things that aren't real, that look real, and I guess folks sitting around tables with cigars deciding which is which and who will see which one. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I've got a few thoughts rolling through my head, but I'm not exactly sure.
All right. Well, just to specify, I was watching your tape, and you are talking about how the Nazis had that bell, the Die Glocke.
Okay.
And that is a method of technology that is tied in with satanic influences, and you were talking about Crowley earlier, and so that is something that does go on with a lot of people, and they would say and would have us believe this is real. It sounds a bit corny, but it's real magic. It's real fooling around with nature, but there is also the aspect where they pretend. They act as though something is really technologically fantastic, but it doesn't really work that way. You address that in your presentation. So if you can't address that now, I don't know what happened. Maybe I read that wrong.
Me either. Well, yes. Okay. So when we go back to our ancient past and we look to a man named Hieron of Rome, he would actually devise what we would consider the first computers back in ancient Rome, of levers and pulleys, weights, and fire. He even had developed the original steam engine, which never developed into motivation or motoring, but they had a steam engine as well that would actually spin, and these devices. So what would occur is the priest would come out of this holy temple. They would light the fires in the face of the temple, and this would cause the technology to start acting and would open the doors as if God were standing there. And this was their acts of prestidigitation or stage magic, where they would tell people this building is endued with God. So the idea of fooling people with high technology is not new. It has been around for ages, and I think we're in a severe state of that right now, where nothing is real.
Looks like we might have gone through a bit of that with 9/11 at the very least.
Certainly. I mean, I'm stuck with being the guy that predicted it. So
predicted
9/11.
All right. You bring up a good point. I want to jump topics here. I wish this was a 2 or 3 hour show, but I have to jump around. Again, in your presentation, and you're touching on it now. You're talking about predicting horrible things happening, or certainly enigmatic things. You were drawing pictures as a 10-year-old boy of really arcane Chinese relics related to Sirius, the dog star, not the broadcaster. Is that right?
That is absolutely correct.
So what do you attribute being able to be 10 years old and having some kind of precocious knowledge where, let me specify for the listener, I mean, Freeman's drawing pictures of things that hadn't happened yet, including groupings of the space shuttle and flying to Sirius and certain logos that have been used in the occult. It's pretty fascinating visual presentation. So why do you think you were a 10-year-old kid, drawing these bizarre pictures that you didn't even know what they meant until you were in your 20s or 30s?
Let me say that you can find that imagery in my documentary on the goddess Columbia, if you're interested in that. Well, it's also, I guess, in the latest Aliens from Hell. Okay, so, genetic history, genetic memory is where I started to get keyed into that. When I realized that the entire Monarch program, the idea of Monarch programming and trauma-based mind control is based on the concept that the monarch would travel from point A to point B using 3 generations of butterflies. And so the question the Nazis had were, how did they transmit this knowledge? How did the next generation know to carry on?
I see.
So that's why it's called the Monarch programming, because of this genetic memory. And so they found that they could trigger and find data inside of people through their genetics, through their bloodlines. And my bloodline is as curious as any. I am a direct descendant of King of Ireland, and brought forth. And my father was a lead Freemason, worshipful master that was then chasing flying saucers for the government. When I was born, he was building nukes.
Your actual father?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, my dad was on Killer 1 submarine with Jimmy Carter, and then went on to be in the Air Force and became part of Project Blue Book, and he told me straight up, yeah, flying saucers are real, because it was his job to track them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I never got anything more out of him. It was very strange. I scheduled a date when I got my new TV show back in 2004. I was like, he's going to be my first whistleblower. And, I mean, not to giggle while I'm saying this, but he died the day that I was scheduled to go interview him. And no one expected this. It was weird. It was...
Very sorry to hear that.
Wake up that day. Yeah.
For a lot of reasons, I'm very sorry to hear that. That's unfortunate.
So I do believe it has to do with genetic memory.
All right, now just to play a bit of devil's advocate, was there any chance that whatever your father was saying to you when you were a 10-year-old boy was what fed the fuel to create these pictures that you did?
Not at all. I had no idea my father did any of this stuff. I mean, I did have a model nuke that I played with as a kid, but I just thought of it as a rocket, an ICBM. I had a toy ICBM. No, I didn't know my father was involved in any of this, and I didn't know any meaning of this picture I had drawn. Now, it won me the first place in my 5th grade art school, but it didn't mean anything to me. Now, the curious part is I have lost everything I ever had from the time I was a youth, except for that picture. And when 18 years later, I'm reading a book called The Sirius Mystery by Robert K. Temple. And I'm tripping out because it's all about merfolk or fish beings. And this has been my forte, whereas David Icke relates to reptilians. I've always been the merfolk because there's an endless history to the merfolk. I mean, going back to Nimrod, Semiramis, Isis, Venus, the merfolk, Dagon and Ovanes. It's something that you can historically check. So I was into this concept, and so when I start reading the Sirius Mystery, and it talks about these fish beings that came from Sirius and gave the Dogon tribe of Mali, Africa, secret arcane knowledge about their planet and their star system, I was tripping out because I thought I was the only person that was onto this fish being type scenario. Well, I flipped to the page, and there is the Dogon symbol for Sirius that was given to him by what's known as the Nomos, which are the fish people, which translates to repulsive abomination in their language. So you can imagine these fish beings would slime up out of the water, teach these people how to live in sandcastles, and teach them all about the Syrians, and then slime back into water again. So they call them the Nomos, the repulsive abominations, and they had this symbol that they drew for the meaning of Sirius. Well, that was the very symbol that I drew on every one of those space shuttles of mine, and I drew it with such determination that I'm certain what I had done was remote viewed. I have studied remote viewing from SciTech from the day they became a corporation. I have their first training tapes. I understand the concepts, and I think that's what I was doing at 10 years old. Now, Star Wars had just come out, or was coming out 6 months later, and I'll tell you, that would have totally screwed the entire message. And that makes me think a lot about what they're doing with programming in Hollywood and how this can screw up your own programming. But there was that symbol, and there was that symbol, and then the Space Shuttle Columbia is orbiting over Mali, Africa, and it is dragging a tether across space to get new electricity, new energy out of space. So they're dragging a long cord over Earth's atmosphere, and it breaks off, and it starts floating away like a massive fluorescent light bulb. And all of a sudden, all these craft are being illuminated around it, and they seem to be 2 to 3 miles in size. And they're filming it. You can see all of this in my talks and on the website. Just check out the Tether incident if you want your own. And that very craft that was being filmed is also in my picture. And the people that were researching it, such as David Sereda, who was a NASA scientist, determined that it was from fish beings from Sirius and that it related to the Dropa stone that was found in China, which had the exact same little notch and the same exact spiral inside of it. And then all of this spiraling stuff goes back to the Norway spiral, goes back to the Bell project that we were talking about with the Nazis, and back to the idea of transmitting into another dimension.
Well, we're gonna stop right there, because what better segue phraseology than transmit into another dimension? Hey, folks, you're listening to Conspiracy Queries with Alan Park. We have Freeman Fly on the line, all the way from, are you in Texas? Kansas, all right. And we will be back with some more fascinating stuff from Freeman Fly, freemantv.com, in a couple of minutes. We're back with Freeman Fly. Thank you again for joining us today. We were just getting into your description of your own path and your own youth and the things that you have picked up along the way. Again, this research, I got to direct everybody to this. Very exciting stuff. You have to get over to Freeman's website and check that out. It is really something. There's amazing levels of, yeah, that sounds true to me. You know, like certain things ring true, certain things I already know, and other things that you brought forward, it was like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. For example, where did you get, unless you can't tell me for, professional reasons or what have you, where did you locate the footage that you were just describing of the energy tether that had broken off the shuttle, and then the footage of that I suppose NASA was in charge of taking? That's where you see all these other gigantic spacecraft. You've got that in your presentation. I don't believe it to be a fake piece of tape. Where did you find that?
NASA used to have an open relay that anyone could go to if you had the right internet connection. This was even before the World Wide Web. And you could actually watch everything. They have now put an intercept in between that so that they have a moment's delay.
There's a bit of a filter on the copious supply of flying saucers buzzing around. Oh, go figure.
Yeah, and there were a ton of people that used to just watch it regularly. And this was actually a very big deal. The tether incident was something that was publicized and made news.
Now, where did that go, by the way? Was that the only time they ever tried that tether, just to let people know the space shuttle? What did you say? It was Endeavour or Columbia? Columbia. That had
the tether, I believe, was Columbia.
Yeah, and it was
STS-75.
Very long.
They currently.
Yeah, what was it made out of? Some kind of I don't know what it was. Some kind of electronic foil or what have you, and an interesting idea at harvesting energy. And then anything on that front since, or was it too successful?
Well, currently we have the X-37B orbiting our planet. It's been orbiting for a year now. We do not know at all what this is doing, but what it is a military robotic space plane, a mini space shuttle about the size of a pickup truck that they call the Flying Twinkie. And it is on its fourth mission, top secret, that is, and it has been out there orbiting. It is a telepresence robot. You can actually transmit your mind into it, much like Robonaut 2 on the International Space Station is also a telepresence robot, where a person on the ground can actually become the robot. Okay, well, if everyone's wondering why I didn't say anything, I just didn't have anything to say. It's amazing. Listening to this. It's fantastic. Right now on the International Space Station is telepresence robot capable of near AI technologies. And then we have 16 stem cell projects going on seeking immortality for humanity. You know what I want to talk to you about is the connection between Hollywood and what goes on out there for real. Now, why is it, in your opinion, that so much of this, let's call it secretive at the very least, the secretive goings-on of the machine that we live in, this thing, why do they list and present so many of the valid points, facts, thesis, directions, intentions, symbology, logos, all kinds of things go into Hollywood movies that warn us and tell us what is going on right now? And I guess a lot of people think, oh, it was a pretty cool movie. But a lot of that stuff is really going on. And why is that? Why do they do that? Like, if I'm trying to screw you over,
I don't feel comfortable laying out most of my clues that I'm going to do while I'm screwing you over. You know what I'm saying? So why do they even encompass all of that stuff? Why don't they just make up a bunch of nonsense movies and have people, shuffling around and bouncing into corners and not know where they're going?
It is my belief that this is the spiritual war, and that they must get our free will agreement in order to enact their nefarious plans. I think there is a spiritual barrier there that we have to allow them to do this. I found this through the Masonic rituals. When you enter a lodge as a Freemason, the first thing that you do is admit that you have come of your free will and accord. And then you perform a death and resurrection ritual that, I've seen alter people's states of mind, alter their very beings, and I've met a lot of high-level Freemasons that, if you ask me, I'd say their souls have been sucked. So I really do believe it has to do with the granting access of our free will.
That is fascinating, because that is exactly what goes on a judicious, officious level across the board.
Right.
I mean, as far as going to get a driver's license, you want to go put a porch on the back of your house, you got to get a building permit and ask permission for that. Over in Canada, you're effectively asking the Queen for permission to put up a new deck, if that's what you feel like you want to do. I mean, so many things that we do, we have to ask for permission, and or to be even screwed over. Like if you don't register, to get a driver's license and then you drive, you could be in some trouble there because you're outside of the system. But you still have to actually make the choice yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And the truth is that we have been under a magical rule for quite some time, all of civilization, actually. The Freemasons, when they came to America to establish their new Atlantis, they knew everything about liberty. But liberty is something that's granted to you. It's given to you. It's not yours. And when they came here and they met the Native Americans, they learned about freedom. And they said, oh, my God, there's nothing we can do to these people. They are not under our spell. When you start to study magic, you actually go all the way back to ancient Egypt. And their very first forms of magic were talismans and contracts. And so this is money and corporation. So now we are under these magical spells of these golems that do not die. I mean, when is Coca-Cola going to die? It's not. It's a magical spell that is just sucking all of the resources of the planet, and they now own all of water all over the planet, right?
Well, I'm guilty there of Coca-Cola usage. I'll tell you, I have not found a more price-effective and physically effective toilet bowl cleaner out there. So
I love the drunk history on Coca-Cola. That's a classic.
They've never. I swear, just pour a can in the bowl, leave it in there, give it a quick brush in the morning, and it sparkles like it hurts your eyes. Unbelievable. Coca-Cola, folks. Hey, we'll be right back. Our new sponsor for the show is Coca-Cola. No, just kidding. Obviously, that'll never happen. Tell us about remote viewing. Now, you have been doing this for a long time. This is a thing. This is something that the United States government, vis-a-vis the military, was involved with for a while, and then they said they were no longer doing that. I am skeptical of that claim. But you say through remote viewing, the 9 are coming back to cleanse planet Earth as they have done in Atlantis. Who are the 9? And take us into a little, your knowledge of, if you don't mind, a little bit of remote viewing that might help some of the listeners develop that skill themselves.
Okay, I'll start with remote viewing and then go to the 9. Remote viewing is a belief that your brain has instant access to the Akashic records or the overmind. And what you will do, actually, is just you will have an image field that you don't know what it is, and you scribble a line. And the scribble contains all the data that's within it. Now, a remote viewer doesn't get straight data. You go back to that line and you start to get sensory input. And you have to ask the questions of color, temperature, texture, and you allow your brain to say that it's correct, and you write down what first pops in. So you go back through your line and get all of that type of data. Then you can take it and draw an image, but your image will not be to scale. Things will be off and big and small and everything else. So it's left up to the remote viewer to start to decipher what he's getting out of the data that he's receiving. So far, all of the remote viewing that I've seen promoted, Major Ed Deems or Dr. Doom, as he's known, he's been wrong every time. So I don't have a whole lot of stock in it, but I think that there is something to this. And as far as technical remote viewing is where I don't hold a lot of stock, is where you're actually utilizing a method that gives you results every single time. That's what I don't fully believe. I think that there can be just, blinks of bringing this data, though.
Okay, so you were remote viewing when you came across the 9? Is that what, or did I get that wrong?
No, yeah, that was actually what was occurring was the elite, the head families, bloodlines, were gathering together for seances. Certain people like the Astors and the even Gene Roddenberry of Star Trek had shown up for these seances to channel entities that they had made contact with, known as the 9. They were the Ennead in Egypt, the 9 gods of creation. And they started having communications with them. They used a number of different psychics to channel these guys, but usually just one at a time. And it became Uri Geller, the guy with Ben Keys, the Israeli psychic. And he started channeling the 9 for them and giving them all the data that they were returning. And he believed that they were actually pranksters that were sending information, and came out and said that that the 9 were actually a supercomputer known as Spectra that was orbiting our planet in some sort of spacecraft.
Wow, I used to use a gel when I was in high school called Spectra Gel, and it was good for removing pimples off of my face. And that was another kind of cleansing. We're going to do some other cleansing, and that is to pay some bills. We'll be right back with Conspiracy Queries. I'm Alan Park. We're back with Freeman Fly. Thanks for sticking around. The 9, we were just talking about that, this collective now. You brought up the whole Star Trek thing, and Gene Roddenberry. I found it fascinating that in the subsequent years, and I'm not a huge Trekker or Trekkie, I don't even know which is which, but there is the character called 7 of 9, and she was part of the Borg, which was a collective mind control unit that was an enemy on the Star Trek world, for those of you that don't know. And that's a mind control unit as well. And I'm wondering, so you've got the 9, and you've got 7 of 9, and she's part of the Borg, and that was on Star Trek, but this stuff is also involved in Star Wars, and it's the same kind of thematic Joseph Campbell type of things. Are you involved in are you involved in this kind of discovery on a regular basis? I mean, that's quite a line there.
Yeah, I guess it never stops. Like I say, Katy Perry and her connection with the ETs, and what I have to say about what she's showing you in her ET video. Well, let's go to that
now, because that's current, new, hot. It relates to your work, and I haven't even seen the video yet. I'm still getting over the can of cream shooting out of her brassiere from a couple of years ago. But so, what's the new video all about?
Well, the video is known as ET. And it's a post-apocalyptic vision that Katy Perry comes in and begins singing, "I want to be a victim, I want to be abducted, fill me with your poison, you're an alien, I want your DNA in me so that we can have a supernatural child." And then Kanye West comes into the puzzle and he says, "Yeah, I'm a big-headed alien, and I can probe you because I abducted you, I can do whatever I want to you."
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I have, and I show you as I cut this video up and show you all the aspects of it, I show you a little girl singing the lyrics. And if you're not freaked out by this, then I don't know where our planet's going to go. But you see a little girl singing, "Fill me with your poison, I want to be infected, I want to be your victim." It gets a bit freaky.
Yeah.
And Katy Perry has been one that we've been tracking for quite some time. I've gone through Madonna, into Britney Spears. I was at the heart of all of this. I've been showing you their magical rituals being performed on live primetime television, to the point where it was actually kind of a challenge to show you the occult aspects of the rituals, to the point now where Lady Gaga is doing blood rituals under a burning angel on American Idol. So now it's kind of just become the fad.
Mm-hmm.
But Katie and the programming that they have been instilling into us is this concept of the interdimensional being and the idea of having supernatural babies by invoking these entities into your soul. Now, ritual magic, which I really attach to everything that I show you, my website's where the esoteric meets the political.
Mm-hmm.
Ritual magic is all about the invocation and evocation of entities. That's what it's for. You want to come into your circle, your pentagram, and cast a spell so that you have an entity appear before you or within you. This is the true point of Goetia magic. That was Solomon's magic and magic itself. So when they start teaching this, it's going deep, deep, deep. It's coming to you straight through Walt Disney Co. And I mean, I'll do a whole show with you, Alan, sometime. Nothing but Walt Disney Co. And we can talk about the most nefarious corporation on the planet. But they produce a line of books called the Crane Chronicles, which teaches you how to invoke Egyptian the Nine, actually, into your soul. And that's the characters do this in their study, in their story. So it is being programmed into our children over and over again. If you go check out your teen paranormal romance section in your local bookstore, you'll see what I mean.
Oh, like not Breaking Bad, but Twilight and whatever those shows, all those teen bopper vampire kind of things, you mean?
All the way up to, American Horror Story, The Coven, back to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I mean, he is a very interesting. His name has just slipped my mind right now.
Is there a line, Freeman, that you've become familiar with? And my goodness, we are running out of time. Hopefully, you're going to come back on the show sometime. But is there a line where people are just writing a book because they came up with a story, or they made a movie that they wanted people to see? I'm sure there are a lot of those in the independent scene, but isn't there anybody in Hollywood putting out like a bona fide thing of, you know what I mean? Like, is there any kind of honest artistic presentation out there? I mean, because you should be able to just make up any kind of nonsense you want and have actors say lines and make a show out of it, like Roddenberry did back in the 60s with Star Trek. And I know there was a lot of symbology in there, but are we past the era of the innocent production of an artistic presentation?
There really never has been. Right back to the time of the Nickelodeon, back to the early days of Hollywood, you can go to the Grand Lodge of New York and see all of the Freemasons that started Hollywood. There has never been a time where there weren't Satanists and occultists on the front of your television. Sammy Davis Jr., Elvis, all of these, Fred Astaire, Frank Sinatra, they all have these occult connections and roots. And all of Hollywood, the very creation of your television was done by the Golden Dawn Society, a magical order that wanted to make communication with the other side again, like what we're trying to do with our new technologies. That the Golden Dawn Society came up with the cathode ray tube, or what they called the Crookes tube, to transmit messages to the aether, or the other side. This was then picked up by the Nazis. Now, the Nazis were founded on the fact that they were channeling entities from the inner earth that they believed lived in a place called Ultima Thule and lived in the inner earth and were superhumans, right? That's the formation of the Nazi Party, because that was formed by the Thule Society, who were a psychic German antiquities studies group that formed the Nazi Party that then brought it forward. They started a company known as Telefunken, and Telefunken wanted to put televisions in everybody's homes. They are now AEG, the main production company for Michael Jackson, for everyone. All the big names go to AEG, and that's the Nazi corporation Telefunken. The concepts of blue beam that were coming to the forefront now, and a lot of people are thinking they're seeing starting to occur, is really, when you go to Serge Monast's original works, you'll see that the whole concept he was trying to display to us was the transmission of these interdimensional entities or demons into our souls via fiber optic lines. And when you start to put this whole puzzle thing together, and you look at CERN, you look at iSky, you look at what movies we're sending into space. We sent The Day the Earth Stood Still to Alpha Centauri. It reached Alpha Centauri December 21st, 2012, by the way. You know, you start to put a puzzle together that's really amazing and concrete. I mean, I'm consistently being proven right.
Yeah, well, I hope they return that video from Alpha Centauri back to whoever it is instead of getting dinged with overdue charges. I know I had a situation like that at Blockbuster once, but we're on that stage. What a great walk into the home stretch you've provided us now, because I wanted to sort of direct the interview this way to end with what I'm about to say, and you've done it yourself, so thanks very much. 1996, or was it 95, the show Stargate SG-1, I guess it's called, came out, and in your presentation, you've got pictures of the main players from that show, and they're matching, what would you call them, like an avatar almost of the current Obama administration. So for folks getting the handle on this, it's for 1995-96 when these characters were created and their narrative lines, apparently, and then many years later, 2008-9 is when the Obama administration comes into being. What's going on with that, Freeman?
Yeah, and Obama is Apophis, which is the Egyptian form of Satan. This I got to give all credit due to the Stargate community. The fans of Stargate got together a collection of lookalikes. And when I saw what they had gathered together, I was like, oh my God, do you guys not see what you're showing me here? So I took their imagery and I put it together as the artwork connecting Stargates and CERN and the SG-1 characters. Yeah, okay, realize that Stargate, SG-1, was greatly helped by the United States Space Force. Okay, U.S. Space Command is in the credits. We greatly acknowledge the cooperation of U.S. Space Command. Mm-hmm. We have United States Space Force. We have space battle labs. We have privatized military space vehicles over, launching all the time. I track the launches always on my Space War News. So, realize the sources when you're watching Alias. Know that the CIA wrote that. They tell you so. It's not like it's some big secret. And with
24 seems to me to be just dripping with that jingoistic, xenophobic nonsense. That show 24. 24.
Oh God, yeah. And of course that comes on 66 and 24 and 42, and all of that goes to the fallen angels. That's a lot of the numerology. When I look at the screen, I see things that no one else realizes, and I try to promote and share with you these signs of Satan that are really shocking me, because I'm not actually looking for Satan. I'm not a Christian evangelical or fundamentalist that's trying to find Satan in everything, but I have. So I think you should listen, because I'm not looking for it, and it's there. The Monster Drink logo is 666 in Hebrew. The Mark of the Beast is Ruffle Brand X. The Mark of the Beast was shown by Madonna at the Super Bowl. It's on the back of the Church of Satan's high priest skull. These things are there before you over and over again. And I'm trying to share with you the occult meanings of all the things that you are seeing. And for me, this is a curious thing because it's not blatant. It's not like inverted pentagrams. Well, sometimes, you got demon drinks and you got, 666 is actually a sports drink at this time where you can get your Lucifer lemonade or sacrificial cherry. So, it's right there in all of those monster drinks. Every single one of them has a satanic sign on it. But most of the satanic symbols that I show you are from their deep rituals, from books that you probably will never see or read. And I find them, I read them, and I see what's going on, and then it becomes the biggest thing.
All right, Freeman,
the Mark of the Beast is the one.
Sorry, give us the name of that book again.
The books that I am using for that particular Mark of the Beast study is known as the Typhonian Trilogy, or the Trilogy of Typhon by Kenneth Grant.
Okay. And then we're unfortunately out of time. We're going to grab you back shortly, hopefully. But let's also mention your book, The Satanification of America, that's available on your website, freemantv.com. Anything else where people can find you and what you're up to, Freeman?
Yeah, absolutely. FreemanTV.com is your one-stop shop. Everything new is there on the front page. Got the new DVD out, Aliens from Hell. Got a new TV show coming out called Conspiracy Science Theater. Got the new book coming out called Weird Stuff, Operation Culture Creation Part 2. Weird Stuff Part 1's already out and rocking. It's doing really good. Everybody loves it. Our whole goal is to develop tools for you to share this knowledge with your friends.
So not much then, really. Well, that's too bad. You really should think about putting some of this knowledge, getting it accessible for people.
Oh, it's all free. Everything's free on Freeman TV. I don't know what you mean.
I'm just kidding you. Thanks for coming on, Freeman. I had a lot of fun, and I hope that you'll be back.
Thanks for listening to Conspiracy Queries with Alan Park. Please offer comments or complaints by emailing conspiracyqueries@gmail.com or on Twitter @con_queries or at our website, conspiracyqueries.com. Thanks for listening.